I feel a bit stuck in my relationship, and I am unsure of what to do. My fiance and I have been together for a little over 4 years, and our relationship has been characterized with lots and lots of arguments and fights. This most recent fight that I am asking advice from is a classic example of nearly every fight we have. We were speaking on the phone due to us being in a long-distance relationship, and my fiance stated something about Christianity that I disagreed with. I told him that I disagreed, and that was all I said. He got upset with me and told me that I don't understand the fundamental concept of Christianity. I told him I didn't think so, but I just disagreed with him theologically on this concept. I heard him typing on his phone, and I knew he was about to pull up something that confirmed what he thought was right. I asked him, "Please don't. I don't want to bicker over this. Please don't look something up just to send it to me." He said, "I'm not sending you anything. You know what?" I said, "Okay, but please don't look something up to read out loud to me." I barely got that out before he cut me off to read aloud a passage of the Bible he felt proved his idea. After he was done, I told him, "I just asked you not to do that, and you cut me off to do that." He said, "Sorry, but I am right and you're wrong." I said, "No, there is no sorry but. I asked you to please not do something and you went ahead and did it." Then he got angry with me and said that I better explain myself to him right now. I told him I didn't have to do that, and once again he said, "You better explain yourself to me right now." I said, "No, I don't have to do that." He said, "No, you don't have to. But if you want a happy, healthy, and loving relationship with me, you better explain yourself to me right now." I told him that isn't how it works, and he said, "Who the FK do you think you are?" I hung up the phone. This happens every few days, honestly, when he cusses me out like that, and I ask him to please stop, but he doesn't. I hung up the phone because I don't want to hear someone speak to me like that. The next morning, he texted me that he was sorry for his contribution to the fight. I told him thank you for the apology, but I needed some time to think about it because that isn't how I want to be spoken to. And I have told him that in the past multiple times. This isn't a new concept. I have asked him to please stop cussing me out for years. He responds to me a few hours later and tells me that me taking some time to think about it was me being evil, manipulative, and hurtful. We speak on the phone a few days later, and he continuously cusses me out saying, "FKU!" and "shut the FK up" whenever I try to say something, and calls me belligerent. A vindictive witch, tells me how much he hates me, how much he doesn't want anything to do with me, how he never wants to hear from me again, but he refuses to break up with me out of fear. You can spin this huge narrative about how awful I am. He starts saying, "FK your parents," because they have seen his behavior in the past and present and don't want to spend time around him. I can barely say anything because if I try to, he will yell, "Shut the FK up," or repeatedly yell, "Stop," over and over and over to me. He tells me that I make him so mad that this is just how he reacts because I treat him so terribly. He said that me hanging up the phone when he asked me who the FK I thought I was the last time I was going to disrespect him. He is mad at me and cussing me out and telling him I treat him terrible and that I am so disrespectful to him because I hung up the phone because he was being disrespectful to me and cussing me out. It makes no sense and it makes me feel crazy. Hence why I am reaching out to strangers on the internet. His therapist he was seeing, but no longer does because he moved cities, sent him a couples therapy course for us to complete. He looked at it without telling me about it or asking me if I wanted to do it after seeing what it entailed. On his own, he decided he didn't want to do it and blamed me for it, saying, "I saw it was a 9-hour-long videos, and I didn't want to ask you to do it with me because I didn't want to be rejected by you." This shocked me because he had asked me twice if I wanted to do it before he opened it up and saw what it entailed, and I said yes. I drove 6 hours to have a meeting with him and his therapist, and I continuously asked for couples therapy. When I asked him why he would believe I would say no to the course after he looked at it, he said, "It's because you refuse to pay for couples therapy." When we were talking about couples therapy, he rushed to sign us up with an online therapist and told me that I had to pay for the entire thing. He told me if we were to do couples therapy, then I would have to pay for the entire thing. I told him I couldn't afford that, but I would be happy to pay for half. But now he is saying, since I won't pay for the whole thing, that is me refusing to do any couples therapy with him, even a free course his therapist gave him. This is absurd to me, because he is the one refusing to pay anything. Our long distance is supposed to end in a month because he moved to a new city, and I graduated and got a job in that new city as well to be with him. He, on the same phone call, starts screaming at me that I better not go to the city with him. I told him I didn't really have a choice because I signed a contract. The buyout is $18,000, which I can't afford. He starts yelling at me that I can afford it, and I just don't want to because I want to go there to just make his life miserable. He started uncontrollably yelling at me. Why are you doing this to me? This is literally absurd to me because this isn't a town I want to move to. This isn't a career move for me, and it is far from my family. I told him this wasn't about me trying to do anything to him. I would never want to make his life miserable. I just can't afford the buyout because I don't have $18,000 sitting around. I just graduated from school, and I have student loans. He told me I should just have my dad pay for it because I am the rich one. I told him I wasn't going to ask my dad to fork over $18,000. And once again, he just started to scream at me that I can't move to this new city, which is out of state, and how I am such a vindictive witch. This is just so wild to me, but I almost forgot. I am sorry this is so long. I just feel stuck and confused. When I ask him to please not speak to me like that and to listen to me and not talk over me or interrupt me, he tells me that I want someone who is perfect, so I must go date Jesus Christ. He is making me feel unreasonable for being asked not to be cussed at. I just want him to be nice to me, and he is making me feel like that is an absurd request. Then he blames me and tells me that I am this master manipulator, trying to turn him into a robot with no soul. This really doesn't make any sense to me. I feel very confused, and I would really appreciate any help I can get. Thank you. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I get the distinct impression that there is absolutely nothing I can say to you that will change your behavior. You've decided to engage in a relationship with an absolute jerk, and you just won't stop. The situation is ridiculous, but instead of noping out 4 years ago, you've signed up for 2,102,400 minutes of idiocy and abuse. It seems clear that you're going to continue and probably ruin your life. I hope you don't. Congrats on graduating. Start your job in your new city, but do not have any contact with this man. If that means you need to find a roommate or live in a very small place, do it. Comment 2. Posts like this are hard because the underlying vibe is, can you give me advice on how to make my partner act like they love me? Which is just not possible. You can't find a magic combination of words to get him to listen to you anymore. Then we can find a magic combination of words to get you to leave this guy. Your fiance sucks, your relationship sucks, your future with him will suck. You have to beg him to respect you, and then he still doesn't do it. There are worse things in the world than swearing, and this guy embodies a lot of those things. Now, for the update, thank you for reading my last post. So, 2 weeks have passed since I last updated you all, and things have been pretty intense. After our last argument, I decided to take a break from talking to my fiance for a few days. I needed some space to think about everything that had been happening. During this time, I focused on my new job and tried to settle into my new city. It was a bit of a relief to have some distance, but it also made me realize how much I missed the good times we used to have. A few days later, he called me, and I decided to pick up. He started off by apologizing again for his behavior, but it quickly turned into another argument. He accused me of ignoring him and not caring about our relationship. I tried to explain that I needed some time to think, but he just kept interrupting me and telling me how selfish I was being. It felt like we were going in circles, and I was getting really frustrated. Then, something unexpected happened. In the middle of our argument, he suddenly broke down and started crying. He told me that he was feeling really lonely and scared about our future. He admitted that he had been taking out his frustrations on me because he didn't know how to deal with his own emotions. This was the first time he had ever shown this level of vulnerability, and it caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. He went on to tell me about his childhood and how his parents used to fight all the time. He said that he never learned how to communicate properly because his parents would always yell at each other instead of talking things out. This made me realize that a lot of his behavior might be rooted in his past experiences. It didn't excuse his actions, but it did help me understand where he was coming from. After that conversation, I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was glad that he finally opened up to me, but on the other hand, I was still hurt by the way he had been treating me. I decided to give him another chance, but I made it clear that things needed to change. We agreed to try couples therapy again, and this time, he promised to pay for half of it. We started the therapy sessions a few days later, and it was a bit awkward at first. The therapist asked us to talk about our feelings and what we wanted from the relationship. My fiance admitted that he had been feeling insecure about our future and that he was afraid of losing me. He said that he didn't know how to express his feelings without getting angry and that he wanted to work on that. I told him that I needed him to stop cussing at me and to listen to me when I was talking. I explained that I felt disrespected and hurt when he talked to me that way, and that it made me question our relationship. The therapist helped us come up with some strategies to improve our communication, like taking a break when things got too heated and using I statements instead of blaming each other. Over the next week, we tried to put these strategies into practice. It wasn't easy, and we still had a few arguments, but there were some small improvements. He made an effort to listen to me more and to control his temper. I also tried to be more patient and to understand his perspective. It was a slow process, but it felt like we were making some progress. However, there was one incident that really tested our progress. One evening, we were talking on the phone, and he mentioned that he had been feeling really stressed at work. I tried to comfort him, but he snapped at me and told me that I didn't understand what he was going through. I felt hurt and frustrated, and I told him that I was trying my best to support him. He started to get angry again, but then he took a deep breath and apologized. He said that he was just having a bad day and that he didn't mean to take it out on me. This was a big moment for us because it showed that he was trying to change. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step in the right direction. I felt a glimmer of hope that maybe we could work things out after all. In the midst of all this, I also learned more about his past. He told me about how his parents used to fight all the time and how it affected him growing up. He said that he always felt like he had to choose sides and that he never felt truly heard. This made me realize that a lot of his behavior might be rooted in his past experiences. It didn't excuse his actions, but it did help me understand where he was coming from. I also opened up to him about my own fears and insecurities. I told him that I was afraid of being in a relationship where I didn't feel respected and valued. I explained that I needed him to treat me with kindness and to listen to me when I was talking. This was a difficult conversation, but it felt good to be honest with each other. As we continued with the therapy sessions, we started to see some improvements in our relationship. We were communicating better and trying to understand each other's perspectives. It wasn't perfect, and we still had a long way to go, but it felt like we were making progress. One thing that really helped was setting some boundaries. We agreed to take a break from talking when things got too heated, and to come back to the conversation when we were both calm. This helped to prevent some of the explosive arguments that we used to have. We also made an effort to spend more quality time together, even if it was just talking on the phone or watching a movie together. Despite these improvements, there were still some challenges. He still had moments where he would get angry and say hurtful things, and I still struggled with feeling disrespected. But we were both trying, and that gave me some hope. In the end, I realized that relationships are complicated and that there are no easy answers. We both had our own issues and insecurities, and it was going to take time and effort to work through them. But for now, I was willing to give it a try and see where things went. Thank you for reading. Am I the idiot for being told my relationship is on hold an hour? Before my partner's cruise, my partner just sat me down to tell me he's evaluating our relationship an hour before he left to go on a cruise with his family. He said that he wants the time on the cruise to evaluate our relationship and what he wants while I'm stuck here at home after he dropped that bomb on me. I keep wanting to talk through things, but I literally can't because of the way he did this. During the talk, he only gave a few high-level specifics and just said that he's been unhappy for a little while and that he needs these 2 weeks away to sort out why he's been feeling this way. We just got approved from work to move from London to Edinburgh, and I think a big piece of it is related to that. I've been super unhappy in London and have been begging him to leave. He initially asked me to stick it out for 2 months, and it's now been 7 months. During this talk, I finally got him to admit that he doesn't want to leave London. He has friends here, female friends who have been nasty towards me, high school mean girl nonsense, and he has never defended me from them. I don't think there's anything going on between him and them. I think he's just done nothing to keep the peace. As a result, I opted to stop hanging out with his friends. But during the talk, he implied that it sucks that I never go out with him. I do go out with him whenever those girls aren't there. The last point he mentioned is that whenever I ask him questions, he always takes it poorly, as if I'm attacking him when he knows I'm not. This has been a consistent complaint of his throughout our relationship. He's very, very sensitive, and I'm very direct. The whole reason we picked Edinburgh was because he had all these very specific requirements for a place to live. And Edinburgh fit the bill, so I don't even know where to go now if he comes back and tells me to get out. We're both in the United Kingdom on working holiday visas. My gut is telling me that he's going to use these 2 weeks to process the breakup and end things when he's back. The idea of sitting around and waiting for 2 weeks for him to do it is torture to me. What should I do? Should I wait for him to come back and stop trying to predict the future breakup? Or should I start looking for a new place to live? I've never gone through with a breakup with someone I've lived with before, so this is new to me. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If I were you, I would go find someone who respects you and with whom you are compatible. When he comes back, I would tell him I have made your choice simple. I am done with you. Comment 2. It was kind of a thoughtless move on your boyfriend's part to drop that on you before he goes away on vacation. Petty me would move out while he is gone. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post. So, a lot has happened since my partner left for the cruise. The first day was a blur. I was just trying to keep myself busy, but my mind kept wandering back to our conversation. I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood to clear my head. While I was out, I bumped into an old friend from college, who I hadn't seen in years. We ended up grabbing coffee and catching up. It was a nice distraction, but it also made me realize how isolated I felt in London. On the second day, I got a call from my partner's sister. She was checking in on me, which was sweet, but it also felt a bit awkward. She mentioned that my partner had been acting distant, even with the family on the cruise. She didn't know about our conversation, so I filled her in. She was surprised and said she had no idea he was feeling this way. This made me wonder if he's been bottling up his feelings for a while. By the third day, I couldn't take the uncertainty anymore. I decided to start looking for a new place to live, just in case. I found a few potential flats in Edinburgh and even scheduled some virtual tours. It felt proactive, but also a bit like I was giving up on us. I kept thinking about how he never defended me against his friends and how that made me feel so alone. Later that evening, I got a message from one of his friends, the nice one, not one of the mean girls. She said she heard about our situation and wanted to offer her support. We ended up talking for a while, and she revealed that my partner had been confiding in her about his unhappiness. She said he felt torn between his loyalty to his friends and his relationship with me. This was a bit of a revelation because he never mentioned this internal conflict to me. The next day, I decided to confront one of the mean girls. I know it sounds crazy, but I needed to understand why they were so nasty to me. I met up with her at a cafe and asked her straight out why she had a problem with me. She seemed taken aback, but eventually admitted that she felt threatened by how serious my partner and I were getting. She said she was afraid of losing him as a friend. This was eye-opening and made me realize that their behavior was more about their insecurities than anything I did. Meanwhile, I was still trying to process everything my partner had said. His sensitivity and my directness have always been a point of contention. I started to wonder if maybe I had been too harsh or if he had been too sensitive. I decided to reach out to a mutual friend who knows both of us well. He gave me some perspective, saying that while my partner is sensitive, he also tends to avoid conflict, which might be why he never defended me. This made me think about how we communicate and whether we could find a middle ground. On the fifth day, I got an email from work about the move to Edinburgh. They needed a final decision soon. This added another layer of stress because I didn't know what my partner would decide. I felt like I was in limbo, waiting for him to come back and make a decision that would affect both of our lives. I started to resent him for putting me in this position. Then, something unexpected happened. I got a call from my partner He said he needed to talk. My heart was pounding as I answered. He sounded conflicted and said he was still trying to figure things out, but wanted to know how I was doing. I told him about looking for new places and my conversation with his friend. He seemed surprised and a bit upset that I was already planning to move on. This led to a heated discussion about our relationship and what we both wanted. After the call, I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was relieved that we finally talked, but on the other hand, I was frustrated that we were still in the same place. I decided to take a break from thinking about it and went out with my college friend again. We talked about everything but my relationship, and it felt good to have a sense of normalcy. As the days went by, I kept thinking about our relationship and what went wrong. I remembered a time early in our relationship when we went on a weekend trip to the countryside. We were so happy and carefree back then. I realized that we had both changed a lot since then, and maybe we hadn't adapted to those changes together. This made me wonder if we could ever get back to that place or if it was time to move on. By the end of the week, I was emotionally exhausted. I decided to take a step back and focus on myself. I started going to the gym again and even picked up a new hobby, painting. It was therapeutic and helped me clear my mind. I also reached out to a therapist to help me navigate my feelings and the potential breakup. Throughout all this, I kept thinking about my partner's sensitivity and my directness. I wondered if we could find a way to communicate better, or if our differences were too big to overcome. I also thought about his friends and how their behavior had affected our relationship. I realized that I needed to set boundaries and stand up for myself more. As I write this, I'm still unsure about what the future holds. My partner will be back in a few days, and we'll have to face the reality of our situation. I'm trying to stay hopeful, but also preparing for the worst. Thank you for reading and for all the support. Am I the idiot for refusing to invite my friend's abusive boyfriend to my wedding and getting called bloated in return? For some background knowledge, I'm 27 years old and I weigh 119 pounds. I suffer from body dysmorphia, and this is something my friend knows. She weighs 130 pounds, and she always talks about wanting to lose weight and exercise, but never does so. For me, I'm very big on portion control, and I exercise every day with going on a mile walk, and I attend yoga on Thursdays. Last night, my friend and I were going out for dinner. I'm getting married this fall, and it's a very small-scale wedding. It will only be up to 50, 60 people. My friend asked me if her boyfriend can come to my wedding, as she's always talking to him about it. From what she told me, her boyfriend is a horrible person. He's very verbally and mentally hurtful. I wish she had the courage to leave him. I guess now they are doing well because she hasn't told me anything bad in a while, but my mind is made up from all the horrible stuff I heard. He's not coming to my wedding. My friend told me that he also made nasty, ignorant comments about Koreans, saying that they all look the same. My fiance is Korean, and I love him and his family way too much to let some ignorant butt attend our wedding. I simply told my friend that I don't feel comfortable if he attends, due to the stuff I have heard about him. She instantly looked sad and disappointed. She told me that it's awkward because he really wants to come to my wedding and doesn't know what to say when he asks about it. In actuality, my friend never let me meet him or hang out with him. She always keeps me far away from him. And according to her, the only way I can hang out with him is when my fiance comes back from South Korea. Because in her words, everyone will be comfortable when my fiance is there. Back from that little side note, I told my friend that I'm sorry, but he's not invited. Luckily, the conversation shifted after that, but it was terribly awkward, and I'm sure this isn't the last time we talk about this. We went to dinner at the Cheesecake Factory. I had a bit of my dinner and saved my cheesecake for when I get home and for tomorrow. My friend finished all of her food plus the cheesecake. We decided to go to Marshall's afterwards. As we were shopping, I heard my friend ask me, "Did you get your period?" I'm expected to get it in 2 days. I panicked and looked down to see if I was bleeding, and then looked up realizing I was safe and didn't have it. I asked her, "No, why?" And she quickly said, "It's nothing, don't worry." I said to her, "But there's a reason why you asked." And she said, "Well, it's because you look really bloated." I didn't expect to hear that, and I was really shocked. She then said, "Well, we eat a lot, maybe that's why." I didn't say anything and ignored her. I know some friends comment on each other's weights and bodies. Our friendship isn't one of those friendships. We never comment on each other's bodies, as I know she has her own body issues. I told my mom all of this, and she thinks my friend did this out of petty revenge because I'm not letting her boyfriend come to my wedding. Overall, I'm just shocked and upset by last night, and I would love to hear everyone's opinions. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I can't think of any man desperate to go to a wedding for a friend of his girlfriend he's even met. She wants him to be invited because she knows if he's not, he's going to make it bad for her and try and stop her from going. Awkward, my butt. How awkward is it to say, it's a small wedding and she doesn't know you? Comment 2. Why on earth would you invite somebody you don't even know to your wedding? How bizarre. I think you should distance yourself from this friend. Just stop picking up her calls. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments from my last post. So, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks, and it's been a bit of interesting to say the least. After that awkward dinner and shopping trip, I decided to give my friend some space. I thought maybe she needed time to process everything. But then, a few days later, she called me out of the blue, sounding really upset. She said she needed to talk to me in person, so we met up at a local coffee shop. When we sat down, she looked really nervous. She started by apologizing for her comment about me looking bloated. She said she didn't mean to hurt my feelings, and that she was just worried about me. I accepted her apology, but I could tell there was something else on her mind. Then she dropped a shocker. She told me that her boyfriend had been pressuring her to get an invite to my wedding. He had been making her feel guilty, saying things like, if you really loved me, you'd make sure I was there. She admitted that she felt trapped and didn't know how to handle the situation. She also confessed that she had been hiding something from me. Her boyfriend had been physically hurtful as well. She showed me a bruise on her arm, and I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I told her that she needed to get out of that relationship, but she said it wasn't that simple. She was scared of what he might do if she tried to leave. I offered to help her find a safe place to stay, but she said she wasn't ready to make that move yet. She just wanted to know that I was there for her. A few days later, I got a call from my mom. She told me that my friend had shown up at her house, crying and asking for help. My mom let her stay in the guest room for a few days, while she figured things out. During that time, my friend and I had some deep conversations about her relationship and her fears. She admitted that she felt ashamed for staying with him for so long, and that she didn't want to burden me with her problems. I reassured her that she wasn't a burden, and that I was there for her no matter what. We talked about her options and came up with a plan for her to leave him safely. She decided to stay with her sister in another city for a while, so she could have some distance and time to think. Meanwhile, I was dealing with my own issues. The stress of the situation was taking a toll on me, and I found myself obsessing over my weight and appearance even more than usual. I started skipping meals and exercising excessively, trying to regain a sense of control. My fiance noticed and tried to talk to me about it, but I brushed him off, saying I was fine. One night, I was lying in bed, unable to sleep, when I got a text from my friend. She said she had finally left her boyfriend and was staying with her sister. She thanked me for my support and said she felt like a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. I felt relieved and proud of her for taking that step. But then she dropped another bombshell. She told me that her boyfriend had been spreading lies about me, saying that I was the reason she left him. He had been telling people that I was jealous of their relationship and that I'd been trying to sabotage it. I was furious and hurt. I couldn't believe he would stoop so low. The next day, I got a call from my friend's sister. She told me that her boyfriend had shown up at their house, demanding to see her. They had to call the police to get him to leave. My friend was shaken but determined to stay strong. She decided to file a restraining order against him, and I offered to help her with the process. As all of this was happening, I was also trying to finalize the details for my wedding. My fiance and I had a long talk about everything that was going on, and he reassured me that we would get through it together. He also reminded me that our wedding was supposed to be a happy occasion, and that we shouldn't let anyone ruin it for us. In the midst of all this chaos, I had a moment of clarity. I realized that I needed to take care of myself, both physically and mentally. I started seeing a therapist to help me deal with my body dysmorphia and the stress of the situation. It was a difficult decision, but I knew it was the right one. As the days went by, my friend started to rebuild her life. She found a new job and started going to therapy as well. We kept in touch regularly, and I could see her growing stronger and more confident. It was inspiring to see her take control of her life and make positive changes. One day, while we were talking on the phone, she told me something that really touched me. She said that my support had been a lifeline for her, and that she didn't know what she would have done without me. It made me realize how important it is to be there for the people we care about, even when it's difficult. As for my wedding, it's coming up soon, and I'm feeling more excited than ever. My friend will be there, standing by my side as my maid of honor. We've been through a lot together, and I know that our friendship is stronger because of it. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.